We could each play a part of a different department head.
Right. Just to keep changing hands.
Yeah, we'll just make up what we think it should say.
Oh, there's Shane.
All right, good.
I'm getting worried there's nobody here.
Is that you in the orange shirt?
I can't find Shane anywhere.
Well, it's 9:30. Start with the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today's prayer is a prayer for America. Father in heaven, we the people in the land of the free and home of the brave desperately need you. Oh, that we would leave our ways of seeking to be blessed and instead seek to bless others. We beg for our guidance. We beg for your guidance and wisdom with our leaders. We ask you to protect our land from enemies, both within and without, and in praise for you, for the freedom that we have through the blood of your Son. May your plan be desired for our nation. Amen. Want to start us out, Amy?
Good morning.
Good morning.
On June 9th, I approved for the Department of Aging the accepted resignation of Natalie Schoonover, full-time transportation driver, to be effective June 13th, 2025. I also granted permission to advertise for the position of full-time transportation driver number 1020. This position will remain posted until filled. Thank you.
Thanks.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Adrian Gordon from the Commissioner's Office. Today's financials include a cash transfer from the General Fund to the Department on Aging for a Corsa check for their totaled ADA van that was deposited into the General Fund. There's also transfers to the Sheriff's 911 and 800 communications funds from the General Fund for the first half of 2025 budgeted commitments. Among the encumbrances are travel encumbrances from the Commissioner's Office to attend the 2025 CCAO Summer Symposium, and from Job and Family Services to accompany a child in custody to a residential facility. There's also a formal contract from maintenance to Geauga Mechanical Company Incorporated for the Annex HVAC automation upgrade. Among the vouchers is $235,686 from ADP to Tyler Technologies Incorporated for the 2025 licensing and support payments on the county's financial system plus cloud integration. Last year's total was $272,622.85.
Can we talk about the voucher to the airport under the commissioners?
Okay.
So I don't know if you gentlemen got a chance to look at this, but the airport sent over this agreement between the commissioners and their contractor, in which Mr. Blamer labeled himself as an agent of the commissioners.
And that's more likely a mistake that he signed.
Okay, so then what's happened with this agreement? Have we made them sign a new agreement? Oh, there is a puppy this time. Just yes on everything on the agenda today.
I don't know about the agreement. I don't know anything about that. The only thing is that we are reimbursed. You know, the thing that is on the financials right now, the 10484, was a reimbursement to the airport for Great Lakes construction that used some power there before their contract was set up. The airport paid for that. Great Lakes construction had sent us a check to the commissioners. We deposited it, so now we're reimbursing the airport for the power that the construction company used at the airport, starting the construction on the parallel taxiway.
I'm just a little disturbed because, I mean, the agreement is with Great Lakes Construction and the airport, and that, you know, the airport is saying that they are an authorized agent of the commissioners, which is not accurate. And so I want to make sure that they have a better understanding of their legal position and that they are not executing agreements on behalf of the commissioners.
And I can take that for action. Commissioner
Okay.
Brackey.
Thank you. So I'll move to approve the financials for June tax 2025.
Second.
Commissioner Spudler.
Aye.
Commissioner Brackey.
Aye.
Commissioner DeWort.
Yes.
Okay, and then the next item on the agenda, the Commissioner's Office is requesting the board grant permission to advertise to hold a public hearing to discuss the Geauga County 2026 tax budget to be held on Tuesday, July 1st, 2025 at 10 a.m. Notice of this public hearing will be advertised on June 19th, 2025 and on the county website.
So Adrian, can you tell me what the steps are in this whole tax budget process? So I know we've had the hearings with the individual departments.
Yes.
And so this would be the next part of the process, would be this public hearing at session.
Right, by law, we have to have a public hearing discussing the tax budget. And this publication or this advertising of that public hearing has to be so many days before the public hearing itself.
Okay,
And then that public meeting has to be so many days before the actual adoption
okay,
and of the tax budget. The tax budget has to be adopted by you no later than July 15th and delivered to the auditor no later than July 20th.
okay, got it. So I'll make a motion to approve number 3.
Second.
Commissioner Spudler.
Aye.
Commissioner Brackey.
Aye.
Commissioner DeWort.
Yes.
One other thing too, we have to have a proposed copy of the tax budget at the auditor's office so many days before you adopt the budget as well. So
Okay,
there would be, and we also put it on the county's website.
got it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Shane Hajar with the Engineer's Office. Just have a couple items here on the agenda today.
You have the whole agenda, Shane.
Well, just go with number 4,
Go
and
with
then we'll
number 4.
combine 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Sounds good. Item number 4, the Engineer's Office requesting the board approve and execute Resolution 25-131, authorizing participation in the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program pursuant ORC 5513.01B, which authorizes the President of the Board, James W. Dvorak, to participate in ODOT contracts for the purchase of machinery, materials, supplies, and for the purchase of a portable salt conveyor.
I move to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Spudler.
Aye.
Commissioner Brackey.
Aye.
Commissioner DeWort.
Yes.
Thank you. As stated, items 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all related to the same issue, 4 bridges under our 2025 bridge inspection reports. They're not being load rated as such, where legal loads are still permitted to cross the bridge, but under the current bridge design manual, it's required to be 108%, so they're actually allowed to be overloaded legally under the law. This would put them at the legal load rather than the 108%. So in some places in the state and around the country, bridges are rated below that legal limit as they're structurally deficient. These are not. They're kind of in a in-between state. They're allowed to carry fully legally loaded trucks across them, just not the overloaded trucks. So would you like me to read these 4 items individually or together?
Together.
Okay. Item 5, the county engineer's office requesting the board acknowledge the recommendation to post load limits on wooden road structure 25-0080 at Chardon Township for the weight limits of a single axle as follows: a single unit as follows: 2 axle 15 tons, 3 axles 23 tons, 4 axles 27 tons, 5 axles 31 tons, 6 plus axles 34 tons, and tractor trailer 40 tons pursuant ORC 5577.071. Similarly, the Wisner Road structure, Geauga Township Road 84-0156 in Chariton Township, same axle loading. And structure on Cedar Road, Township Road 98-0161 in Newberry Township, for emergency vehicles only. That's a special EV tanker truck. And item number 8 on Gem Road, structure Township Road 64-0029 in Chester Township for the same axle loading as the first two.
So my question I had written down was, why are we doing this now? But it sounds like you did an inspection of the bridges, and that's correct, and that's why you're.
Yep, we do annual inspections, and there are criteria that have to be met. And as the bridge ages, some of that criteria falls below the thresholds. In this
Okay.
case, these 4 structures are structurally sound, but they don't meet the requirements of the 108%.
Okay, got it. So I'll make a motion to approve items 5, 6, 7, and 8.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Spudler.
Aye.
Commissioner Brinkley.
Aye.
Commissioner DeWort.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And then you can go through the next 5.
Okay, 9 through 13 are all easement related. Item number 9, the engineer's office is requesting the board approve and execute the highway easement between the Geauga County Commissioners and Alexander P. Becker and Kaylee E. Becker, parcel 02-053500 for roadway improvements on Riverview Drive, TR 380 in Bainbridge Township in the amount of $920. Similarly, number 10, highway easement between the commissioners and Ted Isham and Nancy Isham, parcel 02-246100 for road improvements on Riverview Drive in the amount of $980. Item number 11, the engineer's office requesting to execute highway easement between the commissioners and Elizabeth H. Falkenstein, parcel 02-262700 for improvements on Riverview Drive in the amount of $1,000. Item number 12, the engineer's office requesting the board approve and execute highway easement between the commissioners and Eileen Boheen, trustee of Eileen Boheen Trust, parcel 02-033900 for roadway improvements on Riverview Drive in Bainbridge Township in the amount of $820. And lastly, the engineer's office requesting the board approve and execute a highway easement between the commissioners and Annette Apicella, parcel 02-323500 for roadway improvements on Haskins Road, TR 191 in Bainbridge Township in the amount of $550. These all 5 of these easements are related to bridge projects that we are actively working on for this year.
Shane, how do you calculate the market value of the easement?
Based on the total surface area square footage of the easement and a comparative analysis of the real estate value for that acreage.
Okay,
They vary depending on
yeah,
the size of the take. So
okay. And I mean, how does that, this is just kind of for my information, but how's that negotiation process go? Do people generally just say that's fine and?
mostly,
Yeah.
some ask for additional compensation or some other kind of offset.
Yeah.
If there's an area adjacent to or, in proximity to the take, they may ask for us to assist them in fixing a grading issue or
Okay,
removing other vegetation that is problematic. And
yeah,
so there are some negotiations. We found that it's often easier to write a check than to get involved in that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
we have gone from, a very cooperative arrangement to just a check for the amount.
okay. Are these just checks for the amount?
Yes.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'll make a motion to approve items number 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Second.
Commissioner Spudler.
Aye.
Commissioner Brinkley.
Aye.
Commissioner DeWort.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's the puppy time.
Oh, I didn't see the agenda.
Let's pause.
This is one of ours, looking for a home. He's actually Bo, and he's a Pyrenees Doodle mix, and he's 5 months old, so he's probably gonna get about 120 pounds. I have him and his brother at the shelter right now.
Those are really big feet.
Look at, oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, I thought that too.
This thing's gonna be, very big and somewhat hyper-elevated, so. This is one of our few that are at shelter. Come on, we gotta go over this. You're ready to bring them anyway you think of them today. So what do
You are number 14.
I take a picture of this for the commissioner's Facebook page. That's what we get in a session some days.
Go ahead.
State your name.
He doesn't know his name yet.
Anastasia will teach him his name. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, item 14.
You have to state your name and what department you're from.
Sorry. Matt Granito, Water Resources, no. Matt Granito, Geauga Dog Warden. So the dog warden is requesting the board to approve and authorize Matt Granito, dog warden, to accept and execute the waiver of notice of hearing and inventory and other necessary documents related to the request from the estate of Ingeborg, and I always mess up the name.
Shohatsky.
Shohatsky, thank you, I appreciate that.
No.
To the Geauga County Dog Warden to help the dogs at the shelter and to deposit all the funds received into the dog and kennel fund. This has been a request that has been going on for about a year and a half. Mark Burr has helped us obtain the money and all that, and it was someone who passed away in Thompson. Their property was given, or their estate was had property. They sold the property. So at this point, it's just moving along with the execution and signing of the rights, so we can get more money for these little ones. Now you're wagging your tail.
Oh, I thought you were gonna get a kiss there.
I did too.
That'd be our first kiss.
That would be her
Sure,
first.
meeting
Yeah,
today.
she is not. She's a very scared little pup, but usually these big dogs are that way. They just, they're more nervous than these little,
Yeah.
as I call ankle biters, of the little chihuahuas that always are around. So, but anyway, so that's it's just signing off that we, Linda and I have been working on this. Linda, thank you. She's been working on this for probably 6 months or so, Linda, as I can turn around. And she's been able to get it, and the funds should be coming in the next month.
Okay, what was the amount of the bequest?
The amount, I believe the last hearing that we had was, there was about, the property sold for $105,000 with all the fees that were associated
Yeah.
with her estate. We're looking at around, I'm told, 75 to 80,000.
Okay. And then what, do you have any plans of what you're gonna do with that money for the shelter?
Right now, the plans, we just got the cameras for the $10,000. We are looking at getting a computer program at this point. ADP's helping us out with that. So we do have plans for some of it. Our vehicles, actually, my vehicle broke down and the sheriff's office is now fixing it for us. But
Okay.
our vehicles are about 10 to 12 years old.
Okay.
So it's really discussion
Alright,
of,
yeah,
we have the money for the shelter, put in the shelter. Right now, I would say not, and we could readdress it at the end of the year to see what the engineer comes back with,
Okay.
what he's thinking on the pricing for cages.
okay. So if we're putting into the dog and kennel fund, can we use it for these things you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right, I just
So-
wanna make sure.
So we buying God bless you, yeah. So but buying the security cameras now,
Okay,
and all that, we're able to use that
okay.
directly for that stuff.
And if people wanna adopt Bo, they can go to the Geauga County Dog Shelter, and
Yeah.
what's the adoption fee? Give us the info.
So the adoption fee on these puppies are $200, so it's $185. He's already fixed, so the animal's fixed. That alone is a $300
Yeah,
vet bill. They have all their shots. All the dogs have their shots. and they're ready to go. So it's 185 for the adoption and then 15 for the registration of the dog license, which is required by law.
So I'll make a motion. I kind of don't want to make a motion because then the town gonna go away.
I can leave it here and come back.
I'll
and
take the puppy. I'll make a motion to approve item number 14.
Second.
Commissioner Spiller.
Aye.
Commissioner Rea.
Aye.
Commissioner Ford.
Yes.
You.
Thank you.
Cool.
And thank you, Bo.
I'll leave them with you here.
Yeah. This is gonna be the nicest article Anastasia's ever written about us this week.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, just bring a puppy every week.
Good morning. Charles T. Catch, Maintenance Department. I have one item on the agenda this week, number 15. The Maintenance Department is requesting the board grant permission to advertise for bids for the County Home Next Step Building Wing Demolition Project to be held on Wednesday, July 9th, 2025 at 2 p.m. Notice of this bid opening will be advertised on June 13th, 2025 and June 20th, 2025 and on the county website.
Chuck, can you tell us some more information on this project?
So it's the building next to the maintenance office building.
Yeah.
So it's the white building there. It's the next step building, and it's two sections. There's a front section and a rear wing.
Okay.
The back section hasn't been used for quite some time.
Okay.
It is in very poor repair, and it's the section that's going to be demolished. And
Okay.
it and the breezeway that connects to the front building will also be removed.
Okay. So this will not impact the Veterans Food Pantry.
No.
And it won't impact where Next Step is currently housed.
No, it will not impact them. Their porch will have to be redone where the breezeway connects to it.
Okay.
And there's going to be a period where there'll be construction done. They may lose service for electric service, gas service for a period of time while that's being recapped,
Okay.
but it'll be brief.
Okay. Very good. I'll make a motion to approve number 15.
Second.
Commissioner Spiller.
Aye.
Commissioner Rea.
Aye.
Commissioner Ford.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Department of Job and Family Services is requesting the board move into executive session for the purpose of discussing the compensation of public employees.
Make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Spiller.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Ford.
Yes. The attendees.
the dog, Anastasia?
Yeah, just got that.
It's in your car right now with
With the windows.
windows down. Yeah, I knew you cracked those windows, girl.
Yep.
I'll be back in 10:02.
At this time, no action taken.
Well,
Well,
no, that's
oh,
not
then
great.
one thing. Okay. Yep.
Job and Family Services is requesting the board approve the recommendation of the Executive Director of Geauga County Job and Family Services to grant merit increases of 3% of the base rate of compensation for one employee, Lisa Milgate.
Oops, sorry. Oh, I want. Apologize.
Okay. Strike that. Job and Family Services is requesting the board approve his recommendation for an overall 3% increase to the department's compensation to be effective June 22nd, 2025, the first day of the 14th pay period.
Second.
Mr. Spitaler.
Aye.
Mr. Regan.
Aye.
Mr. Booth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Brad?
Commissioner's office will provide a recap of the 2026 tax budget hearings.
I apologize, commissioners, this is the only place I could really, I don't know if you can see okay there, that's fine. I also gave each of you, and there should be, okay, good, okay. Okay, well, thanks everybody for being here for this. We've recently completed the budget hearings with all the different departments. Unlike last year, this year we did meet with every department to help the new commissioner become more familiar with the budget process for each of the departments. So it was good to have all of them back in here and get refreshed on the things that everybody's doing. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and just get started here. So this screen here is the revenue and expenses for all the county funds since 2018. Including what we've budgeted so far for 2025 and what is currently being requested for 2026. As you can see, the 2025 budgeted and 2026 proposed are both in the negative, but this is not an unusual thing. Most of the departments tend to budget more appropriations than they need. This would account for the 2025 deficit. In all the funds for the last few years, we've averaged about 80% utilization rate on appropriations. In the general fund, it's a little bit better. We average about 90%. The above also does not take into consideration the cash carryovers of many of these funds. So some of that deficit, obviously, the fund doesn't show a negative balance in the end, because it had the cash balance going into the year, but this does not account for that. So this is all the funds. This is the general fund revenue and expenses since 2018, up to and including what we budgeted so far for 25 and what the proposed is for 2026. You can see that big dip in 2024 on the expense side was due to the payroll in the general fund being taken over by ARPA. So all the payroll for most of the second half of the year last year was paid for by ARPA. We then used the funds that were in the general fund to do a capital transfer for the courthouse project. This is what the 2026 general fund revenues are going to look like for next year. Obviously, this is a lot of preliminary stuff. Most of this should be able to be carried over directly into the 2026 tax budget. The commissioners set the revenue budgets for the sales tax and the cost allocation. Revenue requests for 2026 have gone up versus this year's adopted budget, close to 550,000 overall. Most of that is from the sales tax, which was about $250,000 increase. In addition, there was an extra 100,000 in the cost allocation, about 100,000 in property tax and state reimbursement, 50,000 in refunds and reimbursements, 35,000 in fees, 13 in sheriff web check fees, and 5,000 in insurance. So as you can see, sales tax, as we mentioned during the tax budget presentation, is about 45%, almost 50% of the revenue in the general fund. Next is real estate taxes at about a quarter. And then it falls off drastically after that. Interest income, which used to be way down at the other end of the spectrum here, is now the third highest revenue receipt for the general fund, about a little over 6%. Other is about 2.45 million, or about 5%. And then on down from there, the property transfer tax, a little over 2 million, department fees and fines, 2 million, casino tax, about 1.5. Prisoner housing, which has come back up recently, is about 1.5 million. Cost allocation, just under $1 million, and local government tax, about $750,000. So as I mentioned last year, the way that the funds break down, this is what's considered our fund summary for the general fund. And I'm sorry that the numbers are so small. This is a screen capture right off of our system. So the general fund at the bottom of this picture here shows that the general fund had a total unappropriated balance of just under $6.7 million. So this is what our calendar year certified revenue is. You can see the 47.3 million plus what the unencumbered cash was at the beginning of the year, which in this case was 22 million. That's why I mentioned about the expenses dropping off drastically due to payroll being diverted to ARPA. So those two numbers combined gave us the 69 million for total calendar year certification. So that's the revenue we plan on getting plus the cash that we carried over from the previous year. The current year appropriations were about 62.7 million, which gives us almost 6.7 as an unappropriated balance. Now that becomes, when I do the budget, that becomes the beginning cash balance that I work with. So that is a true number that is on there. So you have, like I said, all the calendar year certifications for revenue, all the current year appropriations, and it gives us like an unused or unallocated balance. So that's what I start out with in the general fund as a cash balance. So also reviewing some of the cash balances for all the different departments. As you can see, the commissioners, some of the cash balances in all the funds that we pretty much control is the highest at just under 27 million. The general fund I pulled out of that, so that's 17.5 million. And then you have JFS at 13 million, Board of DD at about 12.5, and on down there, Water Resources, Mental Health. These are all in order of the amount of cash. Now I'm going to break down for you that $26.8 million in the commissioners. So most of this, matter of fact, really almost all of it is all in capital project funds. So the largest one is the Capital Reserve Fund Phase 2, which has about 27.5 million. that is what is building the courthouse addition. So also the American Rescue Plan, which has about 6.2, that has got to be spent by the end of next year. We do have various projects lined up to use that money. Also the Building Improvements Fund, which is pretty much everything except for this building and the courthouse. That's the money that we use to redo the other county buildings. The Senior Center Construction Fund, of course, this is going to be used to acquire and or build or renovate a senior center facility in, I think this right now is the one that we're looking at in the Chardon area. Commissioner's Capital Reserve has a little over 800,000. That's what's left over from building this building. We're using that to continue to do improvements to this building, like things that we're doing for the Board of Elections, where there's going to be another parking lot that's going to be worked on. So pretty much all of that money is probably going to get used up before very long. And another thing too about the capital reserve funds, the one that built this building, the 800,000, that is a 2019 capital reserve fund. These funds only last for 10 years. So after 10 years, that money has got to go out of that fund back into the fund where it came from. This one's a little bit different because this has funds in it from 2 bond issues. There's a general obligation bond that was sold and also a revenue bond. So those funds, I don't believe will be able to go back directly into the general fund. They probably have to go into a debt retirement fund. The Capital Reserve Fund Phase 2, that was a 2021 fund. So we have a couple more years to use that up doing the courthouse projects. And that's also a much more broad capital reserve fund. It can do a number of different things in the area, not just the courthouse. The opioid settlement fund has a little under 500,000. Strategic community investments, that is going to be paying for the safety center parking lot. There's airport construction, which is going to be used to fund our portion of the parallel taxiway. And then it kind of goes down from there. But if you take out all of the capital improvements funds in here of this 26.8 million, you end up with a little over $500,000 in other things like the opioid settlement fund, the Geauga Portage juvenile fund, the Monsanto settlement fund, our liability insurance, central vehicle maintenance, the hotel motel excise tax, gap, and then these other things. So it's about $500,000. So now we're gonna go over all the different departments and what their actuals look like, as well as this year's amended and what they had requested in the tax budget for 2026. So this is the ADP board and the auditor. Again, drawing attention to the 2024, for most government departments, this is going to be lower than normal due to payroll being absorbed by HERPA. So when you see a lot of the graphs that go with these, the 2024s are going to be lower, and you kind of got to think there's probably more of a slope there from 2024 to 2025 than, or less of a slope than what you're seeing. Here's the graphic of that. Next is the Board of Elections and BOCC miscellaneous. Now you can see, particularly on this one, the 2025 amended for the BOCC miscellaneous is about $22 million. That's because of the various, first of all, the $10 million transfer that we did for the courthouse project, as well as other capital improvement projects that are going to be utilizing money for that, including the airport, the fairgrounds, the agricultural society for the new poultry building, So there's a number of different things that are wrapped up in that. The other expenses too for the general fund include operational transfers to court technology, 911, 800 communications, community development, the airport, and the computer equipment improvements funds. That's kind of what that looks like. Obviously, the big spike in 25 is due to those transfers. Next one here is the building department and the clerk of courts. Nothing really unusual there. Again, you're going to see the big dip in 2024. So this one is the commissioners and the common pleas court. The courts have gone up the last couple years primarily because you have a new judge. And then they also have a couple of retirements too, both this year and next year, that there have some overlapping positions and costs associated with that. Again, this is the graphic look of that. Maintenance, or I'm sorry, common police court was not one of the departments that had their payroll diverted to ARPA. So you see the commissioners did have that switched to ARPA, so that's why that one went down, but the common police court did not. So here's the coroner and the engineer. And this is just the engineer's office in the general fund. So their other funds like the road and bridge and their road maintenance fund are not reflected here. This is just the general fund. And there's one up too because they added some personnel, and they also had a big capital outlay this year. They bought like a new scanner, like a high-tech commercial scanner. Just a graphic look at that. Next is the juvenile probate court. Although they do not participate in the budget meetings, they did submit a budget for 2026. So I did include it here. So at least the commissioners could get a look at that as well. This is the graphic look at that. This is maintenance in the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor took over municipal prosecutions last year, which was only a partial year and was mostly paid out of ARPA. 2025 will be the first full year with that arrangement. And maintenance, again, you will not see the dip in 2024. They were another department that did not participate in the transfer of their payroll to ARPA. And obviously with the new building and all the different things and all the projects that need to be done, and the costs honestly going up, maintenance has obviously had a steep increase over the last couple of years, but it kind of leveled out a little bit for their 2026 requests. This is municipal court and the planning commission. That's what that looks like graphically. Pretty consistent. This is the public defender and the recorder's office. Again, the dips in 2024 for both of those. Here's the treasurer and the veterans office. Graphic look there. And finally, the sheriff's office. They as well had the dip in 2024. They also have and we'll go into that in the next slide. They have a union in there in the sheriff's office as well. So here's a look at the various payroll requests that were presented for the general fund. For this, I used the amended budget. Some of the departments expanded their salaries over the 3%. The sheriff's office has a union contract and most of the other departments. Increases involved overlap, either new employees or retirements, personnel being promoted or granted merit increases, as well as budgeting for some positions that are currently vacant. So, and these are all relatively small amounts. I mean, with the exception of the sheriff, which is obviously the largest, pretty much the largest department in the county with the union contract. So, which is pretty much, you know, what we or what the sheriff, you know, has agreed to with their union. So. This next one shows the contract services requests for 2026 in the general fund and some of the funds that get their resources from the general fund. So like Court Technology Fund, the 911 program, 800 Communications Fund, Community Development, and the Computer Equipment Improvements Fund get a majority of their funds to operate from the general fund in the form of cash transfers. 2 of which I just did today for the 911 and 800 Communications Fund.
Adrian, remind me, why did juvenile and the probate court increase their contract services so significantly?
From what I understand and what things look like, there were some significant payroll expenses that they decreased both last year and this year. I think one whole section of care and custody basically shut down.
Okay, and so they're contracting those positions instead of it
Some of
being
those
employees.
services.
Okay,
Yes.
I got you.
Yeah. So when everything was said and done after the end of last year, their increase was only in the realm, I think, of like $70,000 over the both
Okay.
departments. So, and because I was going off of the adopted budget, when we're looking at the tax budget this year, it looks like there was another big increase, but really they got their budget to me too late last year for this year, so we had to do a bunch of adjustments, supplementals.
Okay.
So since we're gonna get this budgeted now, and when we do it for the next time, it should show a better slope. Now, a big part of the reason why I show some increases here, and it kind of became kind of a funny thing after a while, was all the departments that complained about the recent increases in the Office 365. So I know as far as the commissioners, that's pretty much all of what we had to increase. Debbie and I were looking at the expenses, and that was about what we had to increase it in order to cover our department's increase in the Office 365 expenses. So that it looks like it's pretty consistent down through there, looking at the amounts. So, and then this is the equipment requests. So the things that are highlighted are not necessarily increases in their equipment request. It's just an equipment request in general. So it used to be a while ago, we didn't budget for equipment requests, and we would grant those after the beginning of the year once we knew what the supplemental, what the unappropriated balance was, what we had to work with. We have been trying to allow more of these equipment requests. So there's about $1.8 million worth of the equipment requests that are either in the general fund or that were supported by the general fund. And what I mean when I say supported by the general fund, there's several accounts here that are listed there where if they have a transfer in revenue line, I have to have a transfer out expense line. And that typically comes out of the Commissioner's Miscellaneous Fund. So I have to match those up with whatever the revenue request was in any of those funds. So this is what the sheriff one is probably the only one in here, I believe, that has equipment and vehicles that represent that $753,000 amount. Last year I split that out, but it just looked a little confusing, so I kind of put everything just together this time. So So that's the equipment. So here's what things look like right now. So general fund revenue is looking at about 47, 48 million. General fund expense at about 50 to 51, which creates a deficit of about 2.7, 2.8. And the way that we're looking at this now, because our unappropriated balance is what it is probably about $4 million more than it was last year at this time. And and commissioners, please confirm this for me, that you are okay with utilizing that unappropriated balance in order to avoid having to make any cuts to the budget in order to balance it with what the calendar year revenue is scheduled to be. So I'm assuming that's what you're wanting to do. That's what I had been talking with Amy about and with Linda. We felt it would be advantageous to us to not make those $2.7 million worth of cuts in order to balance the expense with the revenue and utilize the unappropriated balance. It'll give us about a $4 million balance at the end of the budget. And obviously, as I've stated before, we're obviously not going to have, at least historically, up to this point, we're not going to have only $4 million in the general fund at the end of next year. Typically, expenses, as I mentioned, are over budgeted by about 10%. It's a little bit more across all funds. So, I mean, there's probably going to be at least 5 million in unused appropriations, which is literally it's revenue that gets set aside for that expense. So when you don't utilize 10% of your expenses or appropriations, you're literally just dumping that amount back into the cash balance. So I mean, that alone, you're looking at probably about $9 million of a real balance. And then whatever we fall short on the revenue side as well, which I think we are getting a lot closer. But I mean, last year we were about a little over 19% below what our actual revenue was. So, and the main impetus for that was the increase in the property taxes due to the value changes. So I think that we are in a good position to utilize some of the unappropriated balance in order to allow the requests as they stand right now to go through. So I'm assuming, unless you say otherwise right now, that that's where we're going with this. So so some of the takeaways, we have to stay vigilant regarding our budgets. We should budget honestly and not be foolish regarding revenue, and keep a watchful eye on expenses, especially if we are, going to allow some of the excess requests as far as calendar year revenue is concerned to go on. We can't, we have to budget better. We have to be closer to what we need as opposed to just covering every eventuality. We need to spend what we need to and endeavor to put unneeded revenue back in the pockets of citizens through reducing levies, which seems to be the best way to do that on a year-by-year basis. That allows, if situations change, because I mean, we're only halfway through this year, so we don't know, none of us have a crystal ball. So, things could still happen, and but we need to be able to manage our money. We do have you know, even though a lot of, at least our money is wrapped up in capital project funds, we as a county are entrusted by our residents with a lot of resources, and they want us to spend them wisely. And if we don't have a need or a use for those, to find a way to give those back to them.
So Adrian, I mean, to that point, I mean, I think a lot of our residents are struggling to pay our property taxes, and looks like there's lots of legislation, various ways to perhaps manage that. But in the short term, people need some relief. So I know in the past the commissioners have suppressed levies. When will those come back on if they're not done again? Like, what's our timeline for?
So I do have, let me just show one thing that I neglected to point out. So if you look down at the bottom,
What slide number is that, Adrian?
this is
I can't read that
number
font.
10.
Okay, thank you.
So if you look down at the bottom here on this transfers out, you see the 2.4 and the 1 million.
Yeah.
So that was the in 2024, the 2.4 million was the children's services levy that was suppressed. One, I believe, was eliminated, and the other one was suppressed. The $1 million this year was, again, one of the JFS children's services levy that was reduced. They didn't change the amount, they did change the amount, but they reduced it by $1 million. So those, obviously on here, like I said, whenever we do anything with revenue or expenses on one side, I gotta do it on the other side. So when they reduce those levies, I have to increase my transfers out expenses in order to make up for that. It's called levy reimbursement expense account. So with the help of the Budget Commission, and we could talk about this, I guess, at our budget meeting with them in August. We could look at the possibility of utilizing some of that extra unappropriated balance in order to reduce one or two levies, and then I would have to, before the permanent appropriations in the fall, I would need to make those adjustments, make sure that everything's balancing. But whatever we reduce those levies, I would have to increase an expense account. So, but we're utilizing the money, the extra money that we have, in order to reduce the tax burden on the residents. So there's a lot of different, there's several different levy departments. So there's a lot of different options for us. I think the easiest one so far has been JFS because they have a number of different levies that support them. So it's kind of easy to pick and choose the amount and customize it more to what the current situation is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should have a proposal that we bring to the Budget Commission regarding suppressing a levy, rather than just asking them what we should do.
Okay.
And something that the commissioners should agree to ahead of time. That would be my recommendation.
I can definitely reach out. I mean, it is something that we do in conjunction with the Budget Commission.
Yes, no, I understand. I mean, I just think we should all be on board with a recommendation that we bring to the Budget Commission.
Sure.
Questions permitted?
Yeah, hold on, hold on. Got it. I gotta get to that
How do you
slide.
want to handle the question?
There you go.
He's got
Go ahead.
questions.
So, two questions.
David.
First, I'd like to make a public information request for this presentation as well as the tax budget.
Okay.
So, and I think you have my email.
If you could email me though, just so I have
Sure,
a
I will.
reminder of it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that'd be great.
So it appears, and this is a quick snapshot, you're going through the slide somewhat quickly.
Yes.
But it looked like there's a trend towards some pretty significant budget increases. I looked at ADP quickly and wow, I was a little bit shocked at how much they were taking year to year or what the increase was the next year. And that surprised me a little bit. So is that concerning to the commissioners at all that we have this trend line to all of these increases? And I'm not sure how to account for all those. Can you account for some of those increases?
Well, so the main thing that, and I won't, I mean, if you guys wanna address that, feel free. My take on all that is that granted, the expenses have been going up. But so have a lot of the things that we pay for. I mean, and at the same time, revenue has been going up. So, it's hard to make an argument when we're having to spend more, when we're making more at the same time. So, things cost more, it's, more expensive to do business. As far as the ADP side goes, I'm no expert on what and how much it should cost you. I believe I looked up at one time that an average organization should spend about 5 to 8% of its revenue on IT related things, and I think the county is like at 3%. So of our total revenues. So we are below what the industry average, I guess, is for IT spending overall. I mean, when you take, because ADP doesn't just support the commissioners or doesn't just support the general fund, they support the entire county. And even things outside the county, other municipalities and stuff like that. So when you take into consideration all that revenue, and the industry average says you're spending 5 to 8% of that revenue on IT related items, and we're spending, 3 to 4% of that. So, I mean, we are still below technically the, what the industry average says we should be spending.
That is a scary rule of thumb. I came out of the IT industry. So you base expenses
This is a
based on
press
need,
conference.
not based
I
on
think
those
we-
revenue.
Put
Right,
some-
That's
Run
spend it or
something
lose it
back
kind
and
of
forth.
mentality.
It's how much is recommended that you spend.
It's expenditure.
We're at 3 minutes.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Other people have any questions for Adriel? Okay. That concludes our
Awesome.
Adrian's report.
Yes, thank you very much.
Item 18, the Commissioner's Office is requesting the board move into executive session for the purpose of considering the purchase of property for public purposes. If premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest pursuant to ORC 121.22G2.
So I make that motion to move into executive.
She's still there.
Aye.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll let you know. Thank you.
Okay.
You're surviving a week without water, then come back. It's the easy start, but no action.
Lawrence, you ready?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Be back at 11:04.
No action.
We'll move to, item 19. I have nothing to talk about or discuss.
I should have, I'm finalizing the letter regarding the septic, the operation and maintenance septic inspection program. And so I should have that ready for next Tuesday.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we'll have, public comment.
Nobody?
No?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.